Another day, another new amp. In this case, we have a Super Reverb. We haven't shown one of these on the channel yet. This is from the 70s. You can usually tell pretty clearly by the diagonal baffle line there that you see, among other things like the silver face, obviously. This, I believe, is an earlier 70s one, does not have a master volume. You can see how it looks there. It's definitely got some patina to it, and it's far too big to put on the workbench, so I want to show the cab first, and now let's disassemble it and put it up here. So it's actually been a few days since the clip you just saw of the cabinet, and that's because we could not get this dang chassis out. If you don't know, the top of a Fender combo cabinet has a thin metal sheet to block, radio frequencies and whatnot from getting inside the cabinet or inside the chassis and getting amplified and going through your speaker. And sometimes that thin metal can get chewed up and basically get stuck behind the metal lips here of the chassis, so it locks in place and you can't get it out. Now this has been pretty chewed up before, and this was already here, and it was completely locked in there. And yeah, definitely going to have to work on the cabinet, getting that straightened out so that it's not an issue in the future. But anyways, we've got the chassis out, so we're going to go ahead and actually save that fun for a little bit and start here on this side. I always like to start with the transformer side first because that tells me a lot. Now, real quick backstory on this amplifier. So the owner and his buddy actually were planning on working on it themselves, and they started working on it, as you can see. And then, life gets in the way and kind of ran into a couple snags and decided if it, it's ever going to get done, they needed to give it to somebody to work on it for him. So here I am, and I feel honored to be trusted with this project. Now, first things first, let's just go ahead and date the amplifier. So we see transformer here, 606.3, like 37. So that would point to 1973 because it is a silver face. And then this transformer here is 606.4. So this would be 1964. And then this big output transformer, let's see, 606.4 as well. So 1974, so if you don't know, 606 is the manufacturer code, and then the next number would be the year. So 3 could be 63 or 73 and so on. But by other, exterior clues, we know this is definitely a 70s amp. And then the power transformer, let's see if I can see that. 606, oh, interesting, 5072. So this one's actually got 7 numbers in it. I've never seen that before. 6065072. So I'll have to look up what that means. So potentially, traditionally, the number after 606 would be the year, but I'm not sure what 072 would be because obviously a year only has 52 weeks. So why would you need 3 digits? So potentially a 1975 power transformer, which would be very interesting actually to show that, you can have an amplifier that, again, these look all original to me, could have all original iron that is, there's a 2-year gap between the different transformers, this being a 73 and this potentially being a 75. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, TBD on that. We'll figure that out later. Chassis looks pretty clean overall. We'll look at the doghouse just briefly. So obviously the previous owner, they got some F&T caps here and installed them. We will definitely want to double check on the solder joints here, but first glance, it looks okay. I did already discharge it. I will show though. I know some people get upset when they don't see it. So definitely, if you guys haven't seen the 61 Basement video, check that out. The doghouse cover gives you the instructions on that one. Got Sharpied on there. So you can see no voltage, so totally safe. And it looks like we got the original resistors as well, so we'll probably just have to touch up these solder joints, but otherwise it looks like it'll be okay. So now let's go ahead and flip it over to the fun side. Let's see what we're working with. I don't remember the full story of this amplifier. The owner told me, I'm sorry, Chris, I'm blanking, but I believe he got it and it was not functioning and had broken tubes, and he was hoping it was one of those gambles where you get some tubes and hope that it does work. Ended up not working, so he started working on it, and but I don't think they've ever gotten any sound out of it. So that's just something we'll keep in mind. Now, first glance, it looks basically all original. There are a few things that the keen-eyed among you might have spotted, but the main circuit board looks nearly 100% original, very clean, and all that lovely, lovely wax you see from the mid-70s Fenders. Oh, goodness. If you guys saw the 70s Princeton series I did, you will understand my pause there. So let's see how we want to do this. Let's figure out what Super Reverb this is. The owner provided a schematic for us, so let's see what he provided. So this is a AA1069. Let's just confirm that's correct. So immediately, it's not. You can see here, let me grab a little stick. You can see here, this is the bias supply circuit, and you see one filter cap here for the bias supply, and we see here we got two. So this is definitely not the right version of the Super Reverb. There are probably 4 or 5, I want to say, different Super Reverb layout or schematic versions. So let me pull up on my phone and find the right one real quick. Let's see. This looks identical to the Bassman 50 I worked on. Again, full series on my channel. Playlist for that one had the exact same bias setup. So let's see if we can find that. There's a few different options here. Yeah, okay. So this is the, looks like it is an AA270. So let's see here. Hopefully you guys will be able to see that. Let me do this. So you see here we've got one bias cap and one bias cap here, and you got a 3.3K resistor, and we've got the pot here. And if we look here, we've got an 8075. This says 5070, but this era Fender is notorious for having a lot of variations between the real amps and the schematic. Look at that 70s Princeton, look at that 70s Bassman 50 series I did. Again, you will see a plethora of examples of that. So, but this is definitely the one. It's got the two bias caps there, and you can see the 3.3K, hopefully just hiding there. Ignore this. We'll get to that in a second. We're just going to kind of visually check everything first and foremost, and then I will go through with the schematic and really, really deeply look at this. But we're going to do first impressions here. Now, the transformer I mentioned could be a 75. It looks all original. Solder joints look original off of it. So I have no reason to believe this has been changed. We got the artificial center tap there and the original bias caps, diode, and resistor. Again, we'll ignore this mess in a second. We'll get to it in a second, I should say. Gotta love this. Always happens with this wiring they used in the 70s was just so terrible. And yeah, that's what you get. Probably even just from the cap getting hot, honestly. These have the weird cap going across, was it pin 1 and pin 5 there. We got a 3-prong. This is a 70s 3-prong. Wait. I was like, that looks weird to me. Okay, well, that's not what you want to see. Here, let me move that out of the way so you can see. Yeah, so, okay. That could be an issue. I was like, that looked a little strange to me. I could see a gap and it looked like it was lifted here. So this is a great example of why so many people, myself included, think it's much better to solder directly to the chassis. Now, there are a lot of proponents on the other side that think the opposite, but especially transformer bolts like this, they can come loose, case in point, in which case you lose your ground. So yeah, I can loosen my hand here. So definitely we will be removing this and soldering it directly to chassis for sure. Looking around a bit more here, making sure everything else is okay. What is this? The ground switch. Looks like it was soldered here at one point, but is no longer. I'm not sure why that is. The original screen and grid resistors there, both tubes. I'm avoiding the elephant in the room. Okay, let's get to the elephant in the room. So what is going on here? This is the intensity pot, and we've got it going directly to pin 5 of both power tubes. And that's it. Nothing else is connected to the intensity pot. You can see that. Let me zoom in a little bit for you guys. So what's going on here? Weird. Okay. As far as I can tell, it looks like this lug was snapped off. Let me see if I can zoom in more. So this lug right here, I would assume this would be going to, well, there should be a lug going to ground. There's not here. I don't know, again, what this is, but you can see solder there. Interesting. Slightly concerning. And obviously not factory. This was, I don't believe this was done by the previous owner. I don't think he said they did any mods to it. I will double check with him though, but very weird. So typically, let me pull up the schematic real quick. Yeah, so if you look here, this is the intensity pot. And let me zoom out a little bit. So that's the intensity pot, and we can see there should be a lug going to ground, and then two lugs with two wires, a brown and a yellow, according to this, but the color codes almost never match. So ignore that, but just two wires. And those two wires are going, let's follow along. So it looks like it should be going to this 220K. So this one right here. And right here. So here and here. So we do see two wires there. We see this white and this yellow one. This is a different wire. This one is going probably to the speed. Yeah, that's going to the speed. I can see that right there, if you can see that. So these two going here. Pull them out. All right, okay, so it's all coming together now. All of the hideousness is connected in some way or another. So these, let's go to this mess here. First and foremost, so we've got the 15K pot, or 15K resistor, which should be grounded to the pot, which it is. You can see the lead right there. Again, let me zoom in for you guys. Try and center that a bit more. So you can see that there, but then you've got this carbon film and this carbon film. Now this carbon film resistor is just floating, and it is connected to the 15K, and it's got solder on this end. So as far as I can tell, it looks like somebody tried to solder it right here and just did not get a good connection. Probably, yeah, it looks like it was probably like this, and became disconnected. So I don't really know what the goal there was to put that to ground as well at the 15K. Obviously to adjust the maybe the bias range wasn't working, but that's a terrible way to do that, obviously. And the execution was not great either. But then we've got this other carbon film going to ground here. And these two wires right here, if you can see that, let me do this. See that? So these two wires are the two that I just pointed out, this one and this one. So those two wires should be going here. And this, I have no idea what's going on here. This resistor is not part of anything. And then these two obviously should not exist. So I think my just initial thought looking at this, power of deduction, I'll have to see if I can find a photo of an original one to see if there is a lead there or not. But according to the schematic, this should be going, two of these should be connected to these two wires. And then the other end should be going to ground. And we are missing a lead here for the pot. So possibly snapped, broken, and then this was their way to get the trem to still work, connected directly to pin 5, I guess. And then that to ground. And well, I'm honestly not sure. I don't really understand, because this pot is disconnected from everything but the grids. Very strange. Okay. Yeah, it's a bit beyond my knowledge, to be honest, to try and suss that out just by looking at it. But some weird thing going on, possibly a trem pot, intensity pot broke, stuff wasn't working right, and this was the solution, if you can call it that. Okay, we spent way too much time on that, but I think we figured it out. Something along those lines. For sure, replacing these bias caps, those need to go. And like we mentioned before, getting this figured out, the ground connection, and then getting rid of all of this and returning it back to factory. We might have to replace this pot here. My guess is we probably will once I confirm that there is supposed to be a lead there to ground. So moving on here, just kind of moving forward, we got the original screen and grid resistors, like I said before, the weird cap from 1 to 5, pin 1 to 5 to ground, just like the Basement 50 I worked on. And then moving on here, it actually looks quite good, extremely waxy, which you hate to see it. If you guys saw the 70s Princeton series, again, I did, you'll understand just why I'm not overjoyed to see that, because you get so much leaky DC on the board, and it is a massive, massive pain and a mess to get it out. So we'll see there. But the blue turd caps are here. Honestly, I've never run into any of these leaking, so I don't have any problems seeing those. Resistors look all original. That's good. Moving down. Everything in here looks good. So again, we got the original cathode bypass caps here, all the little white Mallories. We will be swapping all of those. The owner did provide what he bought was a recap kit from Fromel Electronics, vintage twin recap. Obviously not the right amp. A Super Reverb might have the same cap setup as a twin, I don't know offhand, but immediately the bias supply cap they provided there is a 100 microfarad, 100 volt, which won't work because this requires 2, as we showed before. So luckily I have the correct replacements there, so that's no big deal for the owner, but that cap won't be able to do anything. And then all these little 25s are to replace the cathode bypass caps. Now, if we look here at this first one, you'll notice this is a 550 and the rest are 25s. This, I'm not sure the schematic says 5 or not, but this is a pretty common thing you see in fenders. And this, I believe, if I remember correctly, is for the trem circuit. And basically the 5 microfarad means that it's more responsive as you change the speed. Whereas if you have a 25 in there, it's slightly slower, but it's not a big deal. And we can replace it with one of the 25s and it's totally fine. Moving on. Okay, look at this little guy. So all original resistors everywhere except for this little guy. You can see that. Teeny little, my finger for reference, teeny little, probably quarter watt resistor there. Looks like a 1 meg. And not the best install in the world. Kind of lift that up a little bit. So we will definitely be replacing that little guy with something more appropriate. Now this is going to be just like that Basement 50 series I did, so you'll have some deja vu with this one, but you'll notice it's got a cathode bypass cap all the way over here. Normally on the blackface arrow you'll see 2 right here, and to save space they move it all the way over here. There is space for it. Essentially, typically, at least with the Basement 50s, there's enough lead length on the resistors to bow them out to fit 2 replacement caps, and they're pretty small, about half the size, so you can fit 2 of them just right here. So we will likely be doing that. Returning it to what the schematic says. I can show you guys real quick on the schematic. So right here. So this spot is this spot right here, 225s, and you'll see that kind of V shape, if you can see that. And we only see 1 there, and the other one is here. So we'll be replacing both of those and trying to fit both on the board. And then same thing here. This is exactly like the Basement 50. Right here, there's only 1, and they skimped out. They're missing a cathode bypass cap. If I move down, right here, this is where it should be. You can see that, hopefully. And it is missing and not hidden over here like this one. So we will be adding the second. So we should be adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see what the recap kit came with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we're good there. Everything else looks all original from here over, except for this little familiar green wire, which looks exactly the same as the green wire way over here. So what's going on here? We had some sketchiness over there, so I'm assuming the same here. Let's follow it. This end is going to here so this is the first tube of the vibrato circuit. Looks like pin 1. So pin 1 of a 12AX7 is the plate. So this is connected to the plate, and it is going to, drum roll please, going to the bright switch with the bright cap. Why? I have no idea. I've never seen that before. Weird. All right, those of you that are more familiar with these circuits, let me know in the comments. Why would somebody do that? Oh, while you're at it, why would they do this whole mess over here as well? But I think what we're going to do is just really look at everything with the fine-tooth comb. I'll do it off camera, and we will just be restoring this to the factory circuit. My typical preference is to always restore to the factory, and then we can kind of look at things a bit more after that. But let's just get at the factory and see if you find anything wrong with it. As factory, so many people want to change things without having ever heard it actually fully healthy. So, but everything else looks good to me. Oh, one thing I just noticed, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. See that bow? Looks like it took a pretty big impact right here, and it's got a little bit of a V. Oh yeah, look at the inputs. So they should look like this, where they're on the outside. See that of the faceplate with the little kind of washer underneath. And these are completely sunken inside the hole. Unfortunately, I don't know of any way to completely rectify and straighten this out. So it's going to be kind of just what it is, but perhaps we'll be able to fix this up a little bit. Gosh, I don't know, because that's so tough. The resistors on these, if you can see this. The resistors are tying the two, oh gosh, some gunk back there. The resistors in the input jacks are all connected together, so you can't actually really move them. They're kind of more or less inseparable. So that might just have to be what it is. I'm not sure, but that's low priority. Everything else is higher priority. All right, we're going to double check the doghouse, make sure all of that rewiring was done correctly. We're going to replace all of the electrolytics that are remaining, so all the cathode bypass caps and the bias caps. We will check all of the coupling caps for leaky voltage. We will replace this 1/4 watt resistor with a proper 1/2 watt resistor there. If I have a carbon comp, we will do that. Or if the owner doesn't care, I know I have some carbon films that would fit there. We will sort out the bias circuit and the trem over here. We might have to replace this pot, TBD on that. And then we got to figure out what this issue is and redo the ground here for the 3-prong. And then once we have all that done, we'll be able to turn it on and test it and make sure there's no other issues that are hidden. But that's going to be a lot of work in and of itself. So let's take it in bite-sized chunks. All right, we're going to go ahead and end there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned. Subscribe to follow along with this series as well as the all the other amps I'm working on. I've got a ton on the workbench right now. So really some exciting projects that I'm looking forward to getting to. So, all right, until next time. See you guys.